The rich get richer. That's not breaking news, but this is. The top free agent is off the board in Major League Baseball. All-star outfielder Kyle Tucker is in agreement with the back-to-back World Series champion Dodgers on a 4-year deal worth $240 million, which would work out to be $60 million AAV. It includes an opt-out after year 2. Tucker, who turns 29 years old on Saturday, was also fielding offers from both the Mets and Blue Jays. He's one of the best left-handed bats in baseball. He's hit at least 20 homers in 5 straight seasons, but he has dealt with injuries the past 2 years. Get some instant analysis. Welcome in former MLB Executive of the Year and CBS Sports Baseball insider Jim Bowden. The Dodgers, again, here we are again, talking about the Dodgers swinging a big deal. Your reaction is what to landing Kyle Tucker?
Yeah, so as we watched the Dodgers won their second consecutive World Series and we looked at their team and we said in the offseason, what are the 2 biggest weaknesses that the Dodgers had last year, right? Number one, they didn't have an impact closer. Well, they went out and they got Edwin Diaz in free agency this offseason. He was just the best closer in the National League last year. The other big need they had was improving the defense in right field. Teoscar Hernandez, well below average defensively. And we saw that in the playoffs and the World Series. So what they do? They went out and got Kyle Tucker, the #1 free agent in this entire class. This is a player at 29 years old in his prime. 30 homers, 30 steals is what he's averages. That's what he is. Plus defender in right field, plus base runner, plus arm. So the Dodgers basically look at their team that won 2 straight world championships, Akeem, and they said, look, we had 2 little weaknesses, right? And we just fixed it with the best free agent right fielder and the best closer that was available in this marketplace. And at the same time, how did they do it? They just outspent the Mets. They outspent the Blue Jays and all the competition. The Mets had offered $50 million a year times 4 years. The Dodgers came in and said, yeah, okay, we'll offer 60 times 4. Sit down, shut up. We have Tucker, you don't.
Look, I mean, Steve Cohen just tweeted that there was smoke. Clearly there was smoke in Los Angeles, not in New York. What more can you tell us about how this deal came together? Because we didn't hear the Dodgers. It's like they're just lurking, right? All of a sudden, we hear about the Dodgers at the last second. We had heard that it was a 2-team race. There was Toronto and the New York Mets.
Yeah, that's how the Dodgers operate, right? They're always stealth. That's how they like to operate. Andrew Friedman, the president of the Dodgers, has a long history of that. And look, the Blue Jays, according to our sources, they had the longest term offer on the table for Kyle Tucker. And the Mets, they made their offers public. They leaked out the numbers. Why they did that, I'm not quite sure. But I want you to keep in mind, the New York Yankees made the opinion they don't think Tucker could succeed in New York. They thought he would succeed in LA or Toronto, but they weren't sure that this was a good fit for New York. I guess the Mets felt differently, and it would have been fascinating if he signed with New York, how that would have played out. But even his former teammates in Houston kept telling me, I can't see him signing with the Mets. I think he's going to probably sign with Toronto. But what happened here is the Dodgers do what they do. They paid a luxury tax this offseason, which is more money than 16 teams' entire player payroll. And they sat there and they said, look, we're making so much money. Let's just go overspend. Let's make an offer so good for Kyle Tucker he can't say no. And that's what they did. Nobody's close to $60 million a year. That's $10 million or more than the Mets offered. So the Dodgers just yawned it out. They waited the whole offseason and they said our 2 biggest needs, a closer and an impact right fielder. They got both, and now they are set up. Clearly the favorites in Vegas, Akeem, to win their 3rd World Series in a row. And I'll be honest with you, when we get done this hit, I am going to go online. I am going to book my hotel for the World Series next year in Los Angeles.
Okay. All right. That's fine. You can get ahead of that. I mean, they have the shortest odds to win the World Series for a 3rd year in a row. Look, when you look at the Dodgers lineup, where does Tucker fit and where are you slotting him in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the good thing about Tucker and the important thing about with Tucker is that he's 29 years old, because this is an aging roster, right? Freddie Freeman is now 35. Mookie Betts is now 32. So I think we're going to put Kyle Tucker either in the 2 spot or the 3 spot. I think at Freddie Freeman's age, it's okay if we drop him down a spot or 2. So maybe we end up going Ohtani, Betts, Tucker, Freeman, something like that. Maybe even put Will Smith in between Freeman and Tucker. But it's somewhere in there. I mean, look, you know what you're getting with Kyle Tucker. Plus defense in right field, 30 homers, 30 steals. And by the way, the other thing that's great about this spot for Tucker is he doesn't have to be the headliner. He's not going to be on the cover of the media guide or the yearbook. He's not going to be on the front of the iPad, or he's not going to be on the billboard. That's not what he is. That's for Ohtani. That's for Freeman and Betts and Yamamoto. Kyle Tucker can just be a support player at $60 million a year.
It must be nice to pay somebody $60 million a year and have the roster that you have. They're the Monstars, except these Monstars don't lose in this real-life movie and the reality that we live in. The reality for other teams like the New York Mets, where do they go from here? Because they still need a bat. Bo Bichette's still on the market. Cody Bellinger is still on the market. We saw Steve Cohen again tweet that there was smoke and making a Pope reference that maybe something was near, that a deal was close with Kyle Tucker. Instead, he heads to L.A. So where do the Mets go from here?
4th place. I think the Marlins can go by them this year. I do. I mean, I'm not sure I understand what David Stearns is doing outside of the fact he's trying to make the Mets the Milwaukee Mets, and he's trying to win in New York the way he did in Milwaukee, and I just don't think that's going to work. I got to be honest with you. I mean, let's be realistic of where they went. They went from the 38 homers that Pete Alonso delivers to 20 homers of Polanco. They didn't like Alonso's defense, apparently, even though he was great at scooping and picking at first base. Instead, they want Polanco to play first base, who's played 1 inning of 1 game in his entire major league career there. They moved on for Brandon Nimmo, who hit 28 homers last year, and they bring in Marcus Semien, who's 35 years old, and age in decline is catching up to him. So I'm not quite sure I understand what they're trying to do. They've lost out on every starting pitcher so far on the open market in both trades and free agency. So do they pivot now to Framber Valdez, perhaps? Do they pivot to Bellinger? I don't think so. So I'm really not sure what the plan is there, outside of the fact that I think David Stearns wants to build a team around Carson Binge and Jet Williams and Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong, and be young and grow it and be young. But here's the problem. The Braves and the Phillies are in your division, and they are way better teams than you are right now. And now that you lost out on Tucker, it's going to be tough to overcome it regardless of what you're going to do. My understanding is the Phillies are pretty close to signing Bo Bichette. And by the way, Toronto might pivot after losing out on Tucker. They might up their offer Bichette to try to get that deal closed. So that's something to watch. I can't see the Mets jumping in here and getting Bichette. So I'm not really sure what David Stearns is going to be able to do outside of the fact that this is a team that is not going to be projected as a playoff team by most analysts that are covering the sport.
Well, the Mets offseason has been defined by subtraction, then addition, in an offseason where they needed to add, and instead they continue to subtract and detract because their fans are none too pleased. And you know that we have a lot here at CBS Sports HQ, and they're just not sure where they're going. And I get the frustration. Now that the domino has fallen with Kyle Tucker here, Jim, what does this mean for Cody Bellinger and his market?
Yeah, so the New York Yankees want to bring Bellinger back. GM Brian Cashman has been very clear this entire offseason that that is his number one priority. They have offered him a 5-year deal at $32 million a year. He has turned that down. His representatives, Scott Boras and the Boras Corporation, are looking for 7 or 8 years. Brian Cashman has been open-minded in giving him an opt-out to try to get him to sign, but they're not going to 7 or 8 years. So the question is, does the Boras Corporation have 7 or 8 years from anybody? And if they do, Cody Bellinger will sign there because Scott Boras will want to prove a point to the New York Yankees. But if he doesn't have it there, I think he goes back to the Yankees and they work out this deal. And, you know, I think it helps the Yankees that Tucker's signing for 4 years. because Bregman signed for 5, Schwarber signed for 5, Alonso signed for 5. Why should Bellinger get 7 or 8? Suarez signed for 5. I can go on and on. So I think at the end of the day, Bellinger's going to go back to the New York Yankees. That would be my guess. But look, the one thing I don't know, maybe Steve Cohen's going to react to losing Tucker and turn around and give Bellinger the 7 or 8 year deal. I don't know. Anybody can do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to figure out that they've got to respond now. I mean, this is you're losing another player. They lost Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. The Mets now losing Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. Kyle Tucker headed to L.A. on a massive 4-year, $240 million deal. Jim Bowden with the very latest here on CBS Sports HQ. Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Akeem.
This is incredible for the Dodgers. Look, if you're a baseball fan, you're going, the bleeping Dodgers again? Like, that's what you're saying. You're going, come on. Like, all the guys they have, do they need more? Yeah, they want to win 3 in a row. They're a dynasty. As you take a look at the highest paid players in Major League Baseball based on average annual value. Now, Shohei Ohtani has some deferrals, so this is just for the sake of the argument, $70 million per season. And right behind him is his new teammate, Kyle Tucker, at $60 million AAV. Could have been teammates with Juan Soto. Instead, taking his talents out to L.A. Again, a 4-year, $240 million deal. Opt out after year 2, as our Jim Bowden confirmed here on CBS Sports HQ. Coming up, plenty more reaction ahead. Kyle Tucker on his way to Los Angeles on yet another massive deal for the back-to-back champs.